Agriculture Transformation Project implemented by the World Bank partners. The Prime Minister, Robin Nabbanja, said the NRM manifesto of the ending political year 2021-2026 has been implemented at 88%, performing above the average. The manifesto was centered on job and wealth creation, delivery in education, health and water, ensuring justice and equity, protecting lives and property, achieving economic and regional integration, said Nabbanja. The GDP has grown from 3% in 2019 to 6% in 2025. The economy expanded from $34.7 billion in 2012 to $61.3 billion in 2025. Poverty levels declined from 21.4% in 2016 to 16.1% in 2025. Informal sector employment increased from 9 million to 10.5 million in 2025. Public sector jobs expanded from 329.633 in 2019 to 366.574 in 2025. The number of factories increased also as well. Households in subsistence farming reduced from 68% in 2014 to 30% in 2025. Electricity generation capacity increased with access now at 60% from 51% in 2019. So were greatly expanded. Life expectancy at birth increased from 68 years in 2025 from 43 years in 1986. Enrollment in government schools increased also to 9.1 million learners from 2.5 million learners. I beg your pardon in this. Enrollment in schools across the country increased from 9. Beg your pardon. Some correction. Enrollment in government schools increased to 9.1 million learners from 2.5 million in 1996. Now, Parliament is set to pay tribute to the former Kalangala District Woman Member of Parliament, Helen Nachimoli, who passed away at Alexandria Medical Center, where she had gone for surgical operation. The Speaker of Parliament, Annette Among, described Nakimuli as a principled and patriotic leader who served her country selflessly and was highly committed to parliamentary duties. Parliament will officially pay tribute to the late Kalanga Woman District Member of Parliament, who died on Sunday following a failed surgical procedure. Nachimuli passed away at Alexandria Medical Center, where she had gone to undergo surgery, but unfortunately, she did not survive. Members of Parliament have praised Nachimuli for championing issues that unite Ugandans and for her selfless efforts to improving the livelihoods of all citizens, especially those in island communities. The late Allen Nachimuli will be laid to rest in Luero this Thursday. And finally, from the local scene, a delegation of Egyptian influencers hosted by Uganda's embassy in Egypt has toured Murchison Falls National Park to promote Uganda's tourism potential and strengthen bilateral ties through cultural exchange and destination marketing. Embassy officials said the visit is part of the broader strategy to showcase Uganda's natural attractions, wildlife experiences, and positioning as a leading safari destination for audiences across the Arab world. At the gateway to Murchison Falls National Park in northern Uganda, where the district of Masindi and Nyoya meet, visitors stepped into a vast wilderness defined by the power of the Nile at Murchison Falls and a rich therapy of wildlife across sweeping savanna plains. Uganda's embassy in Egypt, working with Africa Safari, said it has deliberately included Murchison Falls National Park in the influencer's tour, pointing to its strong Big Five appeals to experience what remains rare to find in other destinations. Well, that brings us to the end of our local stories. Let's see what Judy has for us.
All right, thank you very much, Robert. And looking at what the foreign scene has this morning, we're starting off, of course, with matters US and Iran. I almost said Trump and Iran, but it's actually US and Iran. Tuesday began as a frantic day of diplomacy in Washington, with Air Force 2 ready to fly Vice President J.D. Vance to Islamabad for another round of peace talks between the US and Iran. Several hours later, Air Force 2 hadn't taken off, and the negotiations were postponed. President Donald Trump announced that he would extend the ceasefire with Iran, set to expire on Wednesday evening, to allow the regime more time to create a unified proposal to end the war. In between, Trump weighed his options as the world waited to see if the countries were any closer to ending the war. Trump's decisions marked the second time in many weeks that he has backed off a threat to escalate the war, buying himself more time to wind a conflict as it approaches the 2-month mark. Vance never officially announced the Islamabad trip, leaving Washington guessing, and Iran never officially committed to attending the talks, leaving the White House in the difficult position of deciding whether or not to send Vance, with no assurance that Tehran would even come to the table. As the day wore on, signs of a postponement emerged. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, senior members of the U.S. negotiating team led by Vance, flew to Washington from Miami instead of heading straight to Islamabad. Soon after, Vance made his way to the White House for policy meetings as the president and his senior advisors debated what to do next. All right, former Chilean President Michelle Bachelet, a candidate for UN Secretary General, said on Tuesday that she hoped the world is finally ready for a woman in the position. Since the United Nations was founded after the World War II, all 9 UN of a woman. In 2016, despite several female candidates, Antonio Guterres of Portugal, who's 74 years, told reporters after a 3-hour hearing before member states, "It will be a very good signal," she said. "It could get hope for many people." In a world ravaged by wars, the candidate pleaded with member states to rebuild trust in the UN, particularly by continuing the organization's reform amid a political and financial crisis. She also advocated for a Secretary General who would be present in the field, somebody who has the moral voice and diplomatic stature that can be heard by powerful states. While distrust of the UN is often illustrated by the Security Council's paralysis on many pressing issues, she acknowledged that she had no magic formula to change things. Now on to the motherland. 6 people in Nigeria, including a retired Major General and a serving police inspector, have been charged with treason for attempting to overthrow President Bola Tinubu in a coup last year. The charges were filed by the Attorney General at the Federal High Court in the capital, Abuja, where the defendants are due to appear before Justice Joyce Abdulmalik on Wednesday. A 7th person, a former governor and one-time oil minister, was still at large. Rumors of the coup plot first surfaced in October 2025 when the government abruptly cancelled a planned military threats, but speculation quickly linked the cancellation to a possible coup plot. The military denied the suggestion, but in January, it announced that 16 officers were to be tried before a military court for attempting to oust the president. And that brings us to the end of what the foreign scene has for us this morning. Now let's take a deep dive into what the dailies have.
And I already have the New Vision and the Daily Monitor with me. Now let's begin with the New Vision. National Curriculum Development Center wants new system for subjects combinations. A-level experts propose mix of arts and sciences. National budget, Parliament revises key taxes. And police officers table evidence. Now that is the Okero. Trial ex-workers minister Azuba dead. May her soul rest in eternal peace. And 4 days to go to the MK 52 years marathon. I hope you've already purchased your kit. Only 20,000 shillings. We are running for a cause. Don't forget, those that will participate, orphans. We have so many orphanages around. And moving on, Alupo flags off vehicles to districts for extension services and how nutrition affects learning process. Danish farm targets Uganda for new opportunities. Well, those are some of the stories in the New Vision this morning. Let me quickly peruse through the Daily Monitor, where winners and losers as Parliament approves new taxes. Are there winners?
Well, and, one thing for sure is that the cost of living is already shooting through the roof. As of 2026, 2027, it will be tight, tough, tight.
Yesterday I was having some evening lessons with my friends, seated and discussing issues of national importance. And many were telling that the way things are moving, a time will come when men don't want to marry. Because they can't afford. Just like now, many would love many children, but they can't afford them.
Yep.
So you choose the two that you can handle.
It quite beats my understanding. We have to have money in our pockets, and then the taxes have to take that money away.
So they're saying the cost of living, if you can manage a few things when you're in one as a man, and maybe find other ways, but bringing in, starting a family may be hard.
Interesting.
Coming in. Then URA's $10 million questions. And very interesting questions here. At what point did URA contact security before handing over the money to Bank of Uganda? They never wanted to risk being with that money.
Of course.
So they hurried and handed it over. Why did URA reveal the whistleblower's identity and not the suspects? Did they know the suspects? I also felt, was it safe to reveal this young lady? Because remember, the people who are behind these huge monies, in case they are annoyed so much.
Her life is at risk.
Then, did Uganda raise the issue with the country of origin or foreign affairs? That's another question. Was the Civil Aviation Authority asked to contact the cargo airline that brought this cargo? And finally, among the $10 million question, who owns the clearing firm and shipping company? Now, Julie's friend comes here. Winners and losers as Parliament approves new taxes. Biggest winners is the taxman. Is the biggest winner. Now, what do our neighbors have in the dailies?
Well, we're looking at the Daily Nation in Kenya, and the headline therein is CS 2 MPs linked to 20 billion shillings land grab. Scheme court papers allege powerful figures are plotting to disinherit